Welcome to the Yellow Jacket Experience. I'm your host, Seth Dusall, the voice of the Yellow Jackets. And with me today, as we wrap up National Athletic Training Month, is the man himself, our head athletic trainer, John Culp. John, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Seth?
Doing fantastic. Really glad to have you on the podcast. I know this is something that I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy getting to know you a little bit better, even though you've been here for a long time. And John, of course, you can see the face already. He's ever very, very humble, but fantastic. And this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's start from the beginning, John. When you were young, when you were a kid, what sports were you into? And maybe what athletes did you look up to?
Um, you know, I don't, I wouldn't say that as a kid that I was that interested in sports. Um, um, grew up in a very rural area. So, we had outdoor pursuits as kids, trails and biking and fishing and stuff like that. So certainly by the time I got into high school, then yeah, sports became more of an interest. But where I grew up, there weren't a lot of youth leagues. Those things just didn't exist in my era. Sports didn't really kick in until you hit high school where I was. So, um, and I was not an athlete in high school. Well, I was one season in one sport, and I'm not going to say what it is.
Oh, you can't do that to us. You
Well,
got
I
to.
am going to do that to you. So,
Oh, geez.
um, um, but certainly as a kid, I do remember being a fan of the Cleveland Browns. But then I moved to New England, and everything changed. So.
So do you still follow along with like those outdoor pursuits that you grew up with, whether, going fishing or biking or things like that? Is that something that stuck with you?
No, I'm sorry to say that it really has not, unfortunately. Work sort of took over all of those outside opportunities, experiences, but I enjoy my work, so it's okay.
So let's talk about that. I mean, you said you weren't really necessarily big into sports. How did you decide to get into athletic training?
That's interesting. So when I was in high school, there was a coach, a teacher and a coach who I did look up to, who thought that I might have an interest in athletic training. We didn't have an athletic trainer at my high school when I was there. Again, it was a pretty small rural school in Ohio. But he thought like, well, this might be something you'd be interested in, and so it did sound intriguing. And so back in those days, and although I think they still offer them, there were summer camps or workshops that high school kids could go to learn basic skills like some simple taping procedures and some first aid techniques and some of those things. So I did go to one of those things, sponsored by Kramer Products, who's a big provider in sports medicine products. They ran these workshops all over the country, for a weekend. And so I did go to one of those one year, and then a different one a second year. And that's how I got hooked into athletic training.
Now you went to Ohio Northern. You triple majored, which to me, as somebody who had just one major and it was more than enough, is sort of mind-boggling. Sports medicine, sports management, health sciences, and then you went to the University of Arizona to earn your master's degree in exercise and sports science. What were those experiences like for you, and what did you gain from your collegiate experience in studying athletic training?
Well, at my undergrad, when I was there, it was a quarter system, so you could take a lot of classes during your 4 years. So it was maybe a bit easier to get a second major at an institution like that. Sort of, it's like the trimester model, I guess, but it was quarter, so you could take a lot of classes.
Mhm.
And sports medicine was obviously my main focus and what the classes I enjoyed the most. Um, and sort of spearheaded, as I was finishing up my undergrad degree, realizing, well, athletic training is the profession that I want to go into, and I want to become as an expert provider or professional as I can. And so I wanted to go to a graduate program that specialized in athletic training education to enhance my skills and to be, more than just a basic provider at that point. And so at the time, there were only like a dozen or so graduate schools in the country that were approved or accredited as advanced master's programs for athletic training. University of Arizona had one of those programs. So I was eventually lucky enough to get into that program to earn my master's degree, and it was well worth it. I mean, I definitely learned um, many more techniques, skills, knowledge, through the graduate program, far beyond my undergraduate in sports medicine. So it was worthwhile, and I think it really helped hone my skills to be a good provider.
Was that the furthest you had been from home? I mean, going from Ohio to Arizona is not exactly a short trip up the road.
It is not. I actually started graduate school at LSU, and it was there for about 9 months, the fall semester, and was a GA there, and worked primarily with women's volleyball and women's track and field when I was there. Again, not there for a very long period of time, but while I was there. But again, my goal was athletic training, and I was still trying to get into that program at Arizona, and I finally did qualify or did get in there. So I left LSU and went to Arizona. So yeah, I kind of have been to the corners, except the not the northwest corner. I haven't been there yet, but I've been here in New England now for almost 30 years. I was at down south, both the wet South and the dry South. Arizona was a great experience. I was there for 2 years. Look forward to maybe someday going back there. But where everything is in the United States, but I can assure you that culturally things are very different in different parts of the country. And I think it really helped me grow as a person to be more aware of different things and different settings. So moving away from home was a great opportunity to grow, and so I enjoyed my time at those places also.
Now, your career, in addition to Arizona and to LSU, has taken you to SUNY Cortland, New England College, Plymouth State. You were at Colby Sawyer for a long time before coming to AIC. What were those experiences like for you? I mean, especially Colby Sawyer. I think you were there for 12, 13 years.
Yep, I was there for about 13 years and wore just about as many hats as I could wear at an institution there. I was the academic program director for their accredited athletic training education program for 2 years. I was on the faculty. I started as an assistant athletic trainer and then became the head athletic trainer. So yeah, I wore lots of hats while I was there. And again, all great things because I honed my skills. I became, more proficient in teaching. Definitely enjoyed doing that. While I was there, obviously lots more administrative tasks and things that I took on and dealt with, as both on the academic side and on the athletic side. Again, all things that sort of helped improve my skill set that I brought to AIC when I arrived here. And again, tons of great relationships with athletes, coaches, other faculty. They were all great learning opportunities for me, and hopefully, I provided them with good service and good care while I was at those institutions.
So let's talk about that. Coming to AIC, you came here in 2008. What attracted you to AIC, and what's kind of helped you to stick with it? I mean, you were obviously at Colby Sawyer for 13 years, and you've now been here for 13 years. What's kind of been special about AIC that's helped you kind of stay in this spot and kept you here for as long as you've been?
I think like I said, I wore lots of hats at Colby Sawyer. And when I left there, I was looking for new challenges, some new opportunities, do some different things. And I think I was ready to move back into more clinical work as an athletic trainer, and maybe less teaching, less administrative work. At the time when I made that move. I was kind of looking forward to, working back with football or, some other sports that, we didn't have at Colby Sawyer, some of the other institutions that I'd worked at. So there were definitely, challenges at AIC. This is, I can't imagine anybody coming into AIC in any position and not realizing there are challenges here and
Mm-hmm.
opportunities also. so, so that's what drew me to the head athletic trainer position initially. Is that I felt like there were things that I could bring here to try to make things better, to improve things for the student athletes at AIC. At the time, obviously, Vince Maniaci was still had only been here for a year or two as a new president, and I was impressed by Rich Bedard and some other folks that things were moving forward. We were making changes, growing, expanding. That there were lots of hopefully good opportunities ahead of AIC. Back in that era. And so, those were intriguing to me to try to be part of rebuilding a program and expanding it and making things better.
And we're going to get to some of those things that have happened in the intervening years, including a lot of them that have happened recently. But first, I want to talk about your actual experience with the teams that you've worked with. You've been part of a lot of success here at AIC athletically. I know you've worked with football, you've worked with ice hockey, a lot of other teams as well. What are some of the most memorable moments that you've been able to be part of with some of the teams that you've worked with over the years here at AIC?
Well, it was fun to be part of that championship season with football, or early on when I was here, and we made it to the NCAA first round. That was a great opportunity, a wonderful experience. Felt really happy for the student athletes that got to enjoy that experience. Although it was a really cold, nasty day.
Oh, I
that,
remember the
um,
rain and the mud.
so, but it was fun. It was fun nonetheless. And then, I also worked with wrestling for a few seasons, baseball for a few seasons, women's tennis. So a diversity of experiences, interactions with lots of different athletes. And so those are all great opportunities to help where you can help. Try, excuse me. Try to help student athletes, overcome adversity, whether it's injury or personal, family problems or those sorts of things. I mean, that's all part of the job. But great opportunities. And then, recently, our success with ice hockey has been just fabulous. It's so great. I'm so happy for those guys that have been here and have had those wonderful experiences. And it's definitely been a joy to watch the program, change and evolve into a different experience for the student athletes and the AIC community. I mean, it's not just the student athletes that have been greatly affected, but I think the whole campus has got to see success and enjoy that experience also.
Yeah, it certainly has been a unbelievable run for that team. Did you get a chance to lift the Jack Riley Memorial Trophy either in 2019 or in 2021 when we just won it?
I did in 2019 when we were in Buffalo. It was a fun experience. Certainly not something that I would have thought could occur to us in the previous years. But it was great again with the change and the improvement of things. It was fun to be there for that wonderful moment in AIC's history.
Now, obviously, things have changed in the years since you graduated college. You've talked a lot today about improving yourself, learning more. What are some things that you've learned over your career, that things that you do now here in 2021 that maybe 30 years ago when you were graduating college you never thought you would have even dreamed of doing?
Well, I the most obvious thing that we're all dealing with that no very few healthcare providers could even have ever imagined
Mm.
in their careers that they would have to deal with is a pandemic. So especially in an athletic setting, it's just no one could have ever fathomed having to do some of the things that we are doing now. Having had to work through different procedures and policies that had to be put into place to manage the circumstances. So that's the obvious one. I just
Mm-hmm.
could not have comprehended that I would ever be in a role where I would have to be, worrying about testing athletes and doing all these other things. So that's the obvious one. But, from a strictly athletic training standpoint, we certainly, my profession has evolved a lot over the 30 years that I've been doing it. I remember the old days, slathering Kramer which is a analgesic. It's like the Bengay or hot ointments was, the old days, we just put that on everybody for just about everything and wrapped it on there. And, we just, we don't do those things like that anymore because it doesn't, it doesn't cause any healing. It doesn't really do anything other than relieve a little bit of discomfort for a person. So it's not very effective, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Certainly the profession has evolved. We have lots more technologies now, devices that can help with, tissue healing and creating environments for athletes to get better more quickly, with electrical stimulation and the other big change is a lot of the recovery techniques that are now being employed didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. So compression devices, cryo chambers, just, lots of different tools that some of us have access to and others maybe don't have as much access to. But certainly the profession has evolved, and the, the information that we have and how we go about doing things from rehab. So, a good example are, the infamous ACL tears, right, in the knee,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
One of the pretty common athletic injuries, unfortunately, in competitive sports. When I first started in the profession, when they were reconstructing knees for ACL replacements, people were getting the zipper incision. So from the above your knee all the way down below your knee, you had this huge incision in the front of your knee. They would actually open everything up. They would actually dislocate the patella to drill the holes, to put the replacement ligament in, and then, sew everybody back up and put you in a full leg cast for 6 weeks. So, I mean, it was, and then people cut the cast off and they had no leg left. I mean, they just so much muscle atrophy. And now we have people doing exercises, the first or second day after their after surgery. So just, in a 25-year span, just the way we manage a problem has completely, gone a different direction. Now it's all about early movement, frequent movement, starting, some strengthening exercises, muscle activation exercises right away. That again, 25 years ago, it was the complete opposite. So certainly we as athletic trainers and professionals have learned a lot of new things to try to help athletes get better more quickly, and that's a pretty good example of one that really has changed dramatically in how we used to do things.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of one of our soccer student athletes who had a knee injury and was able to messed everything up and was able to get back the next season. Like that would be unfathomable 25 years ago. And it's a testament to how much science this really is and what you all do in your profession to help the athletes. It's incredible. You brought up the pandemic, and obviously, we couldn't have this, couldn't have a conversation without talking about it and without talking about how we've managed to pull off playing during a pandemic successfully, safely. And you've obviously had a leading role in that as our head athletic trainer. How did we pull it off? How are we continuing to pull it off? And what's kind of the next steps as we're starting, hopefully, to come out of this thing?
Well, I think this is a shared adventure for all of us. I think, there's some, certainly nationally, there have been some experts that have stepped up to the plate to try to give guidance to institutions, to professions about how to manage and move forward with some of these things. And that has changed a lot too, right? Since last, where we are, now in almost April compared to when things started last May, a year ago. We're obviously doing things differently now than we did 6 months ago. But I think, it required a lot of diligence on, my part, my peers within the NE10 and folks around the country to try to develop policies that allowed athletes to return to activity in a safe manner. And again, that continues to change on an almost weekly basis, it feels like still.
Hmm.
But I think I have to applaud our athletes and our coaches for taking the information that we provided and trying to implement it as best they could under the circumstances, whether it be social distancing or masking, not being in group settings, trying to do the right thing when it's not fun and it's not convenient and it's pretty miserable at times to try to exercise while you're wearing a mask. I mean, it's not a good experience. But I think the majority of our athletes stuck with it and hopefully followed the rules, and that allowed us to be in a position to be able to practice and compete maybe to a greater degree than some other institutions were able to do. Again, early on, we as an institution weren't doing a lot of virus testing, and now we are. And again, I think that's helped us too to sort of latch on to whoever the positive was and to try to shut things down and to control things to prevent the spread. But yeah, I mean, our hockey season was a good example. Some teams in our conference were in and out of quarantine like 4 times or more. And we luckily, got through it with just 2 episodes. So, it's mostly the coaches and the athletes who kind of stuck with it and tried to do the right things that allowed us to be as successful as we have been so far this season. And it's not nearly over, right? We've had some issues with the NE10s as we've geared up our spring sports. And so we have a long way to go to get to the end of April or into May. And people need to continue to follow the rules and do all the right thing and think about everybody else and not themselves, right? This is, this process has, this pandemic has, I think, really honed, it really brought to light the whole concept of AIC, one hive, one family. Like people need to be doing the right thing to help everybody else.
Absolutely. And it's been really nice to see that such a huge majority of our athletes, coaches, staff have bought in. Let's talk about something that's a little happier than a pandemic. The office you're sitting in right now and the new athletic training facility, the space that you guys have as far as, new stuff, much bigger space. How did that happen, and what does it mean to have that new area, obviously much larger than the previous athletic training room?
Well, I think, to be honest, we sort of capitalized on our circumstances at the time, starting last spring. When the institution went remote and basically shut everything down for the remainder of the spring semester last year, it obviously created an opportunity where there were fewer people around, so we could reconfigure spaces, we could get certain things accomplished and not disrupt the sort of daily routine of what needed to occur to run an athletic department. So our circumstances, in some ways, this pandemic, I kind of allowed us to make a move that, had been in the works for years and years. I mean, when I first got here, we talked about we need a bigger space, we need to find, somewhere else to relocate the clinic to, if we could figure that out, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, obviously we were lucky in that the basement space that we're in now was, very underutilized. And so it was, I think, to a lot of people, a pretty easy transition to just reconfigure the space that we're in now, again, in the Metcalf basement, and to use it for a new athletic training clinic space. But obviously, money is always an issue too. These things can't just randomly happen. I mean, it takes resources to drive this, and so I'd like to say thank you to Garrett with C&W Services, because he really did sort of spearhead this and tried to help push this along too. By getting our bottom line quotes from the different contractors to try to make this a feasible, a financially feasible thing to do. So again, and then we all know too from the stuff we were understanding about the virus and the pandemic and how it spreads was the concept of de-densifying areas to make it safer for people to be in those areas. And obviously in our clinic upstairs, if we held to the state standards, we could have had like 3 people in the athletic training clinic at a time, and we couldn't run a department that way. There's no way we could help our student athletes. So we obviously had to have bigger space, or more space rather, to be able to deal with the athletes and to allow them, when they did return to campus, to be able to provide some minimal basic care that's necessary to operate an athletics program. So it was a confluence of some different factors that contributed to our ability to move into this space. And again, I'm grateful to the administration that they understood, between our underutilized spaces previously and our overutilized space upstairs, that that we should and could do this. So again, kudos to the administrators for stepping up to the plate and making this happen.
It's been a constant theme with things that you've said today, with our previous athletic trainers that we've had on the show over the course of this month. And of course, the reason why we're having all of you on over the course of National Athletic Training Month is that it really is always about the people. And one of the people who was here for quite a long time, who just recently retired, is Dan Tatro. He was obviously very popular with the student athletes he worked with. What did he bring to the table? Why was he so popular with the students? And what can you tell us about who's coming in to fill his role?
Well, certainly Dan was an unusual hire, I guess I would say. He had a career in the Army, before he became an athletic trainer. So, he had a whole different life experience that he was bringing, with him when we hired him. And I started in July, I think, and Dan was hired, I think, in December. He was the first hire that I brought, that I was involved with, to add to our staff. And again, he was a very personable guy. He didn't necessarily come off that way initially, but I think he just seemed at ease when he was interacting with our student athletes. Didn't matter who they were or where they were coming from. He just was a guy that just wanted them to get to know him, and he wanted to get to know them. And by the way, I'll treat your sprained ankle, while we're talking about whatever it is, sports or politics or finances. Dan was in the finances, right? Money making. Excuse me. So, I just think he enjoyed interacting with people while he was providing care to them, and undoubtedly, probably to one of the greater extents of all the folks, athletic trainers I've worked with over the years at different schools and different institutions, I think he genuinely cared about the students and wanted to get to know them and help them, and just didn't see like, well, I'm going to treat your hamstring strain. Like, he was interested in them and more than that. So, and then we did finish our search. We have hired a new person to join our staff. He'll be starting next Monday, and he's a local person. Worked at a prep school, worked at a local physical therapy clinic the past couple years, so has some diverse experiences that he'll be bringing there. And we're happy that he's joining us, and he's going to get to work right away. That's for sure.
Certainly, it's a busy time of year for all of us, and I imagine it is for you guys as well. So let's take a moment to get to know you more than just your job and role as the head athletic trainer, when John Culp has 5 minutes to unwind, because it seems like you're here 24 hours a day, when you have some time to unwind, what are some things that you do for fun or things that you're interested in?
Well, I don't think it's a secret that people know I like to play blackjack. So, I visit the local casinos, or previously visited the local casinos. I haven't been there very much during the pandemic. Again, because I don't think that's the responsible thing to do. I'm here to help our student athletes get through their seasons, and we're asking them to stay in and not go out and not do stupid things. Then that should apply to the rest of us also. So,
Absolutely.
so I haven't been there very much in the past year, but certainly that's a pastime that I have enjoyed for many years. Not a lot of free time to read or do other things other than work related stuff. But reading is something that I do a little bit of, on those bus rides and other times.
When you do get a chance to read something for fun as opposed to for work, what are you reading?
Um, um, so I like reading different newspapers. Go online and just find some city somewhere else and read the newspaper, the news going on there. I have family back in Ohio still. I have now more family in Florida. So, would sometimes read the Columbus Dispatch and, some other newspapers that I grew up with or was aware of previously, just to find out, about what's going on in those areas. So seems sort of silly, but, just what I do.
And nothing wrong with picking up a newspaper and reading more than just the sports section and the comics, which is usually what I'm doing. Um, so let's kind of get the bigger picture, which is sort of the point of saving you for the last one anyway, as the head athletic trainer. We've recently added athletic training as a major here at AIC. It's obviously been a focus of our institution to continue improving the athletic training department here as far as what the student athletes get as well. So with that in mind, and with this being the end of National Athletic Training Month, what can you say about the bigger picture about what athletic training means to AIC and to the sports world in general?
Well, we added exercise science as a major, which is not really athletic training, but I think
Right.
I think it allowed. We always had some students who had lots of questions, right? Some, they're just interested in why they got injured, how they got injured, what's happening to them, and so adding the major, I think, has allowed those people to be able to um, think about what they want to do later after they graduate from a professional standpoint, and giving them opportunities to learn more about, their own bodies or, other things. So I think that's good. I think, um, I think as we all grow older, exercise is really important to helping with longevity and not maybe not so much competitive exercise, but exercise in general. And I think AIC adding the programs and the focus of our health science School of Health Science is trying to respond to the needs of the country and global needs in regards to being able to provide healthcare to different populations, and to help with the quality of life for different populations. And so our foray into our expansion of the nursing program and our movement into exercise science, clearly is geared towards helping position AIC, to help everybody. So I think that's been good.
Last question we ask, and this is the one that we get everybody on the podcast with. Who is somebody who's had a significant influence on your life, and in what way have they helped shape who you are?
Again, without a doubt, it was that high school teacher and coach that I mentioned previously. My father died in a car accident when I was very young, so I didn't have, necessarily a specific male role model when I was growing up, certain lots of uncles, grandparents, etc. But this teacher, was someone that I definitely admired, looked up to, and he was a good ear at different times, when I was having some frustrations, as a young person. He really kind of helped give some guidance to me and help me sort of figure out a path that I could pursue. And so I am very thankful to Bob Abbey, for what he did for me as a teacher, and gave for the opportunities and guidance that he gave me as a young person.
Well, I think everybody here at AIC is
Yeah,
thankful he did it too, because we wouldn't
yeah.
have you without him, clearly. And
You know,
that's been,
I can't, I know lots of people say it, but teachers are so important. I mean, you just, we forget sometimes even if you're touching just a handful of lives over their teaching careers, it makes a big difference. And so I am so thankful that he took an interest in me and helped me grow as a person.
no, absolutely. I mean, I could say the exact same thing about a bunch of my high school teachers and professors here at AIC, and a lot of other people too, yourself included, John. I want to thank you for coming on and doing this with us. It's been a pleasure, and really enjoyed getting to work with you the last 13 years, and looking forward to a lot more going forward.
Okay. Well, it's been fun so far, and certainly when I came here, I knew there were challenges, and boy, this year have there been more than enough challenges.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
hopefully things will get a little back to normal a little bit here soon, and we can all get back to life in a more sane manner. But thanks. I've enjoyed this opportunity to talk about stuff, not myself, because I don't like talking about myself, but talk about other stuff's been fun.
It has been a lot of fun. John Culp, our head athletic trainer, the man himself. Keep your eyes peeled for more episodes of the Yellow Jacket Experience as we head into the month of April. We're going to have some fun guests on as we get toward the middle and late part of our spring seasons.